Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, we've been talking about observing and not going to, that process of kind of observing all these transformation changes without getting caught up into them. Our good friends Jeff Hoppe, Linda Hoppe, have written a book called Memoirs of a Master. And these are 20 short stories of Adama St. Germain talking about his experience in little vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them in here is called The Land of Blue. It's just a little short story, but it really relates to this whole process of assuming something and then making the assumption real and then living in the assumption. And it's really something that we all do. You know, we've talked in the past about our beliefs and habits and then how we construct thoughts and emotions around all of that. But in this story, it was very fascinating because they're talking about how a long time ago the people had this wide arrangement of colors, for example, available, and life was wonderful. And the one they really liked the most was blue. And they started to make blue the most important thing. And then they started to paint everything blue and make everything in blue. And pretty soon all the other colors began to fade out. And in that process, in the story, there were completely enamored with blue, and everybody got into the routine of blue, and people came and went and came and went, and then all they knew was blue.
They didn't have yellow and green and red.
No other opportunities. But then there were numbers of people, like all spiritual people that we're playing with, that knew there was something more, and they sought out something more. And in this seeking out more, one of the things they did is they referred to blue to find out how to get out of blue.
So living in blue, trying to find green.
But not knowing what green is, just
right.
Knowing there's something else. And so one of the things that is going on when I watch many people in the process of spiritually finding themselves, they're using, metaphorically, blue to try to define green or yellow or red.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't get out of the box. It's hard. You can't solve the problem from the problem, in a manner of speaking. You can't step out of blue when you are defining everything from blue.
And I see people, so I haven't read that one. I haven't read that one yet. But I'm going to. It sounds really good. But so what you're saying is that there is a filter that people have, and in this case we call it blue. In 3D, it could be mother, father, teacher, minister, belief, whatever the belief is, that somebody only sees life through this filter of blue.
Right. So my mother said this, it must be true. The teacher said this, it must be true. This is how everybody else does this, so it must be
the
true.
Culture.
And particularly right now, as this transformation is unfolding, and these waves of energy of disruptive transformation, not as a problem, as giving you an opportunity to begin to see things differently. If you see things differently and they become yellow and you beat it with a stick because it's not blue, or I go into fear because it doesn't look like blue or how I perceived my spiritual path unfolding, it should be this. And this is going to be very interesting. I'm watching a lot of the people that are stepping into that light body and mastering alchemy after years of working at this. And I'm watching them look for this higher level of consciousness in blue. And it doesn't work that way. And so in real terms, one of the things we said about the light body, as you step into a fifth, sixth dimensional consciousness, it doesn't work in words, there's no language, and you have no reference points. And so the natural tendency is, okay, I can hear that, what do I do? And even though I hear that, I revert back to some reference point to try to make sense of something that doesn't have reference
That's
point.
what I know.
And so it's going to be challenging, this process of stepping into this level of higher consciousness. But as in this story, The Land of Blue, really the message basically was, I am. I exist. Here I am. This is what I am, without putting assignment to everything. Here I am, I'm sitting in a room that is unfamiliar to us. This is not our living space, we're visiting a space. And I want to make sense of my space, so I begin to label it or reference it to what I know.
Shades of blue.
Shades of blue. And when in fact this space may be completely green, and it's something very different. But if I keep going back to my reference points to make myself, which the rational mind is all about, making you safe and having you fit in, you never get out of the box. You live in the land of blue. And so this whole journey that we're on is beginning to present more layers and levels of consciousness, but they don't operate in the same manner that the land of blue operates.
Well, someone living in the land of blue, or whatever the box is, we don't know there's anything else. All we know is blue. All we know is the culture, the religion, the education. And so you said those on this journey know there's yellow, know there's something outside of this box. However, we're really in blue, or really in this box of culture, whatever the word is. How do we see beyond blue and start to see yellow?
Yeah, goodness. So that's really the key question. So in relationship to how we exist, and I've talked about this a lot, and in the story of The Land of Blue, it talks about it, is this concept of time. See, our reference points to a great extent are based on our past and our assumption of the future. And so based on time element, we are making all kinds of assumptions and prejudgments, etc. But the only place that you really get to observe something is in present time. Now, present time's very tricky because there's 5 levels of present time that we're even conscious of or have available to us at this point of consciousness. But in that space of being in present time and not needing, not wanting, not having to have some reference point to stay safe and fit in, if you can begin to allow, I'm looking for something else outside of blue, but in the moment, and no expectation, but right now, what else could there be right here that happens without me defining it as I know it?
So it's sitting in the still point and observing. It's not expecting, I know there's a yellow out there, I know there's a red.
Or leaning,
not looking for the red, but just being in your own still point, present time, and observing what the other possibilities are.
Yeah.
Not going to.
Right. And in that space, there is one thing that I've learned that seems to be consistent, is if I can sit in a space of enjoying myself. Now, not for any reason, not for any perspective, but just simply being in a state that feels good. And in that space, what I notice is I don't have an expectation. It's like being in one of your great meditations. You don't want to get out of that space. And the question you ask is, why don't I do this all the time?
Yeah.
And see, it's from that perspective, with your eyes open, in your walking around space, in your observing space, in your not expecting or needing space.
Yeah.
Present time, what do I have here for me? That's where a lot of things begin to change. And we talked about this, that shift, particularly in Mastering Alchemy, where you not need to go out to find it externally. Everything comes to you. And in that space of present time joy, no expectation, but having a desire, I'd like to have this come to me, not having a need for it in the moment, you're going to start to find more and more happens. Then it gets interesting because it's in the happening that you say, how did this happen?
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle. gee, I just had this idea yesterday and it came to me. Well, stop right there and don't analyze it, but allow it to be a new skill set that if I'm in joy, in present time, not needing something, not in past and future, and simply holding out my hand and enjoying the thought of the apple appearing. The apple will appear.
And I think where a lot of us get stuck is there's an attachment. Two things. There's an attachment. Oh, I created this thing. Now I want a new red car, and I'm attached to to the process of the creating rather than leaving the still point. There's a tendency to leave the still point when something cool happens. And the other side, as I'm watching, is that we don't celebrate or recognize. It's like pick up the penny and celebrate the penny that you just picked. Because as you can appreciate the pennies that come into your life, pretty soon there's going to be a quarter, and then there's going to be $1, and then you'll have a new red car effortlessly.
Yeah, but here, yes, and the process here is recognizing I'm doing something different that allows this to come to me. You know, it's a law of attraction. It's not needing. It's all the pieces begin to work together in that present time space of I like me. I'm enjoying myself without any trappings or conditions. So this was an interesting little read, and the other stories are equally interesting. So for anybody interested, Memoirs of a Master. Jeff and Linda Hoppy in Crimson Circle. So, very interesting times we're stepping into, and new perspectives are being made available. You just have to observe them and then allow them.
Stepping out of blue.
Stepping out of blue.